Then you're jumping out and back in, out and back in. All right, that's what we're doing for warm-up. 40, then we start off our first exercise for tumbo. Hope you're ready, hope you get ready, hope you've already gotten your water bottle. Place it next to you. You're definitely going to need it. So kama iko karibu na wewe, rush, chukua. As we warm up, make sure that it's next to you. Let's get started. 40 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 30. 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good stuff. Hope you have your mat ready. Tunaenda chini. Our first exercise today, we're going to do a side to side hip touches, okay? So this is what I want you to do. Place your hands chini, get comfortable. You know I'm a good Jew. Then from there, you're going to tilt your body. You'll be landing on your hip on both sides. So right and left. Let me demonstrate. There. Squeeze your legs down. And you turn. Okay. You see the turn? I repeat one last time. That's the turn there. Miguu isiguze chini. Then you come up. And you swab again there. Then you turn. Okay, that's going to be our first exercise. We're going to do a total of 15. Each workout today, we're working with 15 reps. So, hope you're ready? Good. Miguu hapo. Let's go. That's 1. That's 2. Control your body. Make sure you turn kabisa. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. That's 6. 7. Those are 8 to the left. Those are 9. Those are 10. 5 more. That's 1. That's 2. 3. 4. 5. Woo! Are you good? Rest kidogo. Our next exercise, we're going to do a cocoon crunch. Now, I want you to place your hands straight. Hapo. Okay? Your legs are straight as well. Now, once we take the legs off the floor, we're going to keep them up. Hazitarudi chini tena. Then your hands will come all the way chini ya miguu, then you open back. Alright? I repeat again. My hands are open there. I crunch there, then back. I crunch and back. Crunch and back. If you can lift your upper body even a little bit higher, it's okay. You can still do that, back. That, and okay. Alright. 15 reps as well. Let's get started. Kono hapo. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Balancing pia kidogo inapotea, but I hope you're getting it. Practice. Alright? Relax. Kidogo. Kutoka hapo tunaingia flutter kicks. So you're going to put your hands down. You're going to suspend your legs up. And that's what we're going to do. There. 15 reps. Those are the flutter kicks. Are you ready? Breathe. Leo si marathon. Leo ni marathon brother. Tunaenda pole pole. It's not a sprint. Are you good? We proceed. Perfect. So you flutter kicks there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, that feels good. Our next exercise, I want to try something we call the V-ups. Okay, so basically, we're going to be trying to draw a V using our body. So mikono itakuwa inatoka kutoka nyuma. So hands back, then you come up. Sorry, let's go. You come up. There, 1. Sawa. You try to draw a V. Apple. So that's what we're going to do. 15 reps. Are you ready? Let's go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Tunaenda pole pole na kupeleka pole pole because I know some of you might have a back issue. Utaanza feel a bit of pressure on your back, so take it easy. 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my. That's the V-up. Are you good? Toka the V-up, tunaingia bicycle with a straight leg crunch. So, let me first demonstrate as you take your breather. So you'll be holding your head there. You give me a bicycle crunch, then you touch with the straight leg. You give me a bicycle crunch, then you touch with the straight leg. Opposite side the same. Crunch there, then tap. I repeat one last time. There, then hapo. That makes 1 count. We're doing 15 reps. Are we okay? If you can't hit 15, it's fine. Try to do 10. Just make sure that your posture is correct. So we start with one side. Let's go. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5 to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. Balance the other side. Same. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good job. How are you feeling? Are you okay? Tunashukuru hiyo tumbo kabisa leo. Our next exercise. This is where we need the water bottle. Just breathe. Because you're working on the same muscle, so I'm trying to give you a longer break. Okay? Now, grab your water bottle. So the next exercise, we're going to be passing this water bottle chini ya miguu up. Okay, so you're more in an abs hold, but you're passing the water bottle chini. If you want more of a challenge, you can do a kick in and out there. Okay? If you can't, you're just going to do a plank hold, or rather an up hold. Just hold the legs there, then pass the water bottle chini for 15 reps. Are you ready? Good stuff. So let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh. Are you okay? Take your time, take your time, take your time. Napeleka pole pole leo. Bitumbo. So from there, I want you to place your hands up straight and your legs up there. Okay? So we're going to work with one leg at a time. One leg, the opposite hand. Look at my movement. My legs are there, my hands are there. So I take one leg down, I come up, I tap. One leg down, I come up, I tap. Just that. 15 on the right, 15 on the left. We good? Easy, just be stable and hold it there. Let's go. One leg down, come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The other side, same, leg up, turn up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh my. How are you feeling? Tumbo peke yake. So from there, back to the first exercise. So now we are done with 15 reps. We're going down to 12 reps, then to 10 reps. So this one now we're hitting 12 reps. Okay. So we're starting with the side to side. The ones that hips are touching down on the mat. Tunaanza hapo. 12 reps. You can even put your hands here, comfort, or here. All I'm interested with is that you're able to swing your body, shift it from right to left, ensuring that your hips touch the floor. Okay? Can we start? Let me remind you, in case umesahau, miguu hapo, there, down and down. Okay? We go, 12 reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Oh my. Good. From there, try and get cocoon crunches. 12. Remember, hands out hapo. Come up. And there. You can crunch from there. If you can come up a little bit there, it's okay. Sawa? Let's go. 12 reps. Nine, 10, 1, 2. From that, when your flutter kicks, then you go to the V-up. Flutter kicks for 12 reps. Just breathe fast, relax. Relax. And you can be on your knees. Hold the tempo. Just breathe. Good. So tunaingia flutter kicks. Then let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Good job. From there, we get the V up. Yes, I want your hands straight. So I'm trying to look for space. Good. You ready? Let's go. Come up, kabisa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Last one. 2. Ooh. I know it's not easy. It's gonna be a challenge for most of us. But remember, it's about progress. Challenge yourself. Pole pole. The next exercise, swing the bicycle with a straight leg crunch. So hold your head, touching the elbow, then straight leg, you tap. That becomes 1 count. We're doing 12 reps. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Good job. The other leg. Same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 more. 1, 2. Breath. Nafilaje tumbo? Yeah. Shaanza kutokelezea six pack, eh? Back to the water. Same. We're going for 12 reps. Let's get started. Sorry, let's go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. From there, hands up, legs up. Twelve reps. We call it Jew. We go Jew. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Good. The other side. Same balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Good job. Second set is done. Going to our final set. That set, we're counting for 10 reps. Okay, 10 reps. Then we're done. Take a few seconds breather. Here. Hapo. Just breathe kidogo. Good job. So we do the side to side again for 10 counts. Okay. Are you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. From there, cone crunches. We ready for 10? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. You still do that. Let's go. 4. You can come up. 5, 6, 7. Let's go. 8, 9, 10. Ai. Toka hapo tunaingia flutter kicks for 10 reps. Okay. Tunakimbia sana. Good job. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good job. From there, tunaingia the V up. You're almost done. Tuingia V up for 10 counts. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kanafinya. From the V up, tunaingia bicycle with a straight leg crunch. Let's go, we don't have much time. Let's try finish the third set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The other leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've come to the end of our abs workout today. Simple stretch here. The other side. Then on one side there. The other side. Shoulders and belly. Backwards. Twist the neck round. The other side. Good. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. Out. Breathe in. Out. Last one, breathe in. Out. Thank you so much. Have yourself a good day.
Nawa mikono sasa. Nawa mikono sasa. Nawa mikono sasa. Nawa mikono sasa. Unawaji wa mikono ni mojawapo ya njia bora zaidi ya kukukinga dhidi ya magonjwa na ya kukufanya uwe na afya kwa mwaka mzima.
Nick, what are you wearing? What is this? What's going on?
These are my favorite pajamas because we are out here at the Sunday pajama brunch courtesy of Eat Out. I'm about to eat a lot, and Chef Mulunda, who happens to be one of the finest chefs in Kenya, he's going to be in the house cooking.
We did it. Get in.
Curating next-level concert experiences, Nairobi R&B events have brought international artists like Masego and Tawar to East Africa to share stages and studios with Kenya's key industry players.
Did you know there's a laundry bar soap that can help save you time, water, and money? You save by not having to use multiple products. And you only rinse once. For a laundry soap that can help save you time, water, and money, try Whitewash Extra. Brand power, helping you buy better.
East Africa is transforming, and so is the East African. Cultural, social, and economic integration is resulting in the transformation of the East African region. To stay true to this changing perspective, the East African is also transforming. To understand the region, get your copy of the East African. It's now more diverse, more visual, and more engaging. The East African, understanding the region.
The blind man told police officers, afade mimi sijawahi ona bangi maisha yangu yote.
Hizo ma-award zikafanya watu waanze kuimbia award badala waimbe the word.
Mimi mkinichagua mtaona miujiza.
Anajifanya siku hizi.
Kimbia mara moja.
Naogopa Mwenyezi Mungu na uji moto peke yake.
Hiyo si bangi.
The shaking impact of COVID-19 in the built environment, similar to other sectors, is unfathomable. From frustration of contracts in real estate tenancy to stalled construction projects, constrained access to credit, oversupply of unaffordable housing with almost zero uptake of new properties, the list goes on and on. Property Focus is back, and we're looking at a series called A State of Crisis. Now, we'll be looking at how the real estate industry has been performing since the pandemic hit the country in March. What's the roadmap to recovery as a sector and as an economy as a whole? You'll be finding out in our new episodes beginning Sunday, 30th August at 5:30 p.m. right here on NTV. Set your reminder and save that date. You do not want to miss our premiere episode.
This is NTV.
Hello, East Africa, and welcome to your world. Now, with stress and depression on the rise, this morning our focus is on mental well-being. My name is Joseph Warungu, and coming up, today we'll discuss the importance of counseling and direct you to where you can be assisted. World Health Organization declares Africa polio-free.
The Ministry of Health warns that a historic wave of mental health problems is approaching.
1 in every 10 people suffer from a common mental disorder.
Yes, we look at the trends of mental illness to find out why it's on the rise. We also look at how this artist is making a miniature food pieces. This morning, we're asking you, have you tried seeking professional counseling services, and what was your experience? Share with us on our hashtag #NewNormal. But first, let's look at the COVID-19 situation from around the world. The global number says at this moment, 24,332,275 people have so far been confirmed positive for COVID-19, and of these, 16,873,305 have recovered from the disease, while sadly we've lost 829,666 people around the world as a result of the disease. That's the global situation. In Africa, starting with South Africa, 615,701 people have tested positive for COVID-19, and out of these, 525,242 have so far recovered from the disease, while in South Africa, they've lost 13,502 people. Coming closer home to our own country, this is the situation in Kenya. 33,016 people have so far tested positive, while 19,296 people have so far recovered from the disease. Sadly, in Kenya, we've lost 564 people. Moving across the East African region, starting with our neighbors to the west in Uganda, 2,524 people have tested positive, 1,268 have so far recovered, 26 people in Uganda have died as a result of the disease. In Somalia, 3,275 people confirmed positive for COVID-19. Of these, 2,443 have so far recovered, while 95 people have so far passed on in Somalia as a result of COVID-19. In Rwanda, 3,625 people have been tested positive, 1,810 have recovered, and in Rwanda, they've lost 15 people as a result of COVID-19. Finally, in Burundi, this is the situation there. 430 people so far confirmed positive, 345 have so far recovered, and I think since we started reporting these numbers maybe 3-4 months ago, only one person has so far been reported to have died in Burundi as a result of COVID-19. So that's how the virus is treating us around the world. But moving on to other stories this morning, the UN's World Health Organization on Tuesday declared that Africa was now free of poliovirus, a landmark in a decades-long campaign to eradicate the notorious disease around the world. Today is a historic day for Africa, said Professor Rose Ghana from Mbandeke, whose commission certified that no cases had been reported on the continent for the past 4 years, the threshold for eradication in the world. Poliovirus now joins smallpox in the list of viruses that have been wiped out in Africa, the WHO says.
August 25th, 2020 marks a huge day in the history of the fight against polio. After 4 years without a case of wild polio, the WHO African region has finally been declared free of wild polio virus.
Moving away from diseases, the major oil spill caused by a Japanese ship that ran aground in Mauritius may pose a long-term threat to the region's ecology, including to the Indian Ocean Islands' delicate mangroves, Japanese experts said on Tuesday. The bulk carrier MV Wakashio crashed into a reef last month, spewing more than 1,000 tons of oil into pristine waters that are some of mangroves forest and endangered species. After the boat split in two, the larger piece was towed out to sea and sank, but the smaller section remains stranded on the reef. Japanese experts and officials in Mauritius said they'd surveyed a dozen marine spots about 800 meters northwest of the wreck and found no major damage or any sign of oil on the ocean bottom or on the coral reef. But they said the remaining wreck appeared to be grinding against the reef as waves push it back and forth. If this situation continues, it could cause stress to the corals and could kill them, said Noriaki Sokaguchi, an ecosystems expert with Japan International Cooperation Agency. Hundreds of young Libyans protested in Tripoli for a third consecutive day to decry deterioration and living conditions and corruption amid heavy security presence. Voicing anger at extended shortages of power, water and fuel in the oil-rich North African country, the demonstrators included teenagers and children and marched through the capital again on Tuesday and converged on Martyrs Square. They're also taking aim at what they say is official corruption, and some carried signs bearing slogans including "The corrupt must be put on trial." The demonstration took place even after Faiez al-Sarraj, head of the unrecognized Government of National Accord, GNA, sought to appease protesters on Monday by announcing he would conduct a cabinet reshuffle. During a speech broadcast on the GNA's official Al Rasmiya television channel, Sarraj backed Libya's legitimate rights to protest and said he was determined to fight graft. New ministers will be chosen based on their competence, abilities and integrity, Sarraj says, vowing to take exceptional measures to carry out the reshuffle if it were opposed. The Secretary-General of the World Tourism Organization, Zura Pololikashvili, and Egyptian Minister of Tourism and Antiques, Khaled Al-Lanani, visit the Great Pyramids at Giza Plateau in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, before discussing tourism projects amid the coronavirus outbreak. The two were discussing possible ways of reopening the tourist sites and how the tourism industry can be helped to reopen safely while they fight the pandemic. Enjoy the virtual tour of the pyramids. The Democratic Republic of Congo on Tuesday declared the end of a 25-month outbreak of measles that claimed the lives of more than 7,000 children aged under 5. The outbreak was countered by vaccination on a massive scale in which millions of children and infants were immunized. For the past month, we are able to say that this epidemic has been eliminated from across our territory, Health Minister Eteni Longondo told a press conference. Measles is a highly contagious viral disease that attacks mainly children. The most serious complications include blindness, brain swelling, diarrhea, and severe respiratory infections. Once common, the disease has been rolled back around the world thanks to a cheap and effective vaccine, but low rates of immunization among a community can cause infection to spread quickly. In a virtual address of the 70th session of the World Health Organization Regional Committee for Africa, ministers from the continent raised the importance of investing in health in Africa. Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, calls on leaders to strengthen our health systems and further enhance our public health emergency preparedness and response capacity, as COVID-19 has taught us that strong health systems are a matter of national security and survival.
In Africa, we quickly felt the impact of the pandemic due to our weak health systems, coupled with the highest disease burden in the world. Let us take this opportunity to strengthen our health systems and further enhance our public health emergency preparedness and response capacity. COVID-19 has taught us that strong health systems are a matter of national security and survival.
While the country has been busy battling the COVID-19 pandemic, another silent epidemic has been on the rise. Anxiety and depression has been increasing, as NTV's Nayoma Sampao reports.
4 months into the coronavirus pandemic, the country is on the verge of another health crisis with daily doses of death, isolation, and fear generating widespread psychological trauma. The Ministry of Health warns that a historic wave of mental health problems is approaching.
1 in every 10 people suffer from a common mental disorder.
Depression and anxiety are the leading forms of mental illness in the country, followed by substance use disorders.
Alcohol abuse is most prevalent in the 18 to 29 age group.
Global statistics by the World Health Organization put Kenya among countries with the highest suicide rates. But a good number of people suffering mental health disorders do not seek treatment. And just as the initial outbreak of the novel coronavirus caught hospitals unprepared, the country's mental health system, the ministry fears, that was vastly underfunded, fragmented and difficult to access before the pandemic, is now even less prepared to handle this coming surge.
Amid all these challenges, the country's total bed capacity for mental health care is 1,600, of which 400 are in the private sector.
In December last year, the President directed the Ministry of Health to put together a task force to provide practical solutions to the country's mental health problems. The task force in its report now wants the government to establish a commission for mental health and happiness, which will monitor the country's mental health cases and coordinate the delivery of mental health services.
People are so afraid and shy of indicating that they are human beings who suffer from, say, depression or schizophrenia or PTSD, that they would rather stay with their illnesses at home.
The ministry says it will construct a mega facility dedicated to mental health, in addition to strengthening the existing 14 county hospitals with mental health units. Nayoma Sampao, NTV.
Okay, so welcome again to Your World, and this morning our big focus is on professional counseling services. In other words, we're looking at our mental well-being. And we're actually asking you this morning, have you sought professional counseling services, and what was your experience? We'd like to hear your experiences. If you can share that with us on our #NewNormal or via WhatsApp line, which is will be scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Now, to help me with this issue, I've got a panel of people who are very familiar with this sector. Right here in the studio is Mr. Joseph Onyango, who is the chair of the Institute of Human Resource Management. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Okay. We are also joined from Mombasa by Miriam Mbembe, who is the head of health at the Kenya Red Cross. Good morning, Miriam, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Lovely. We are also joined by Hilda Nyetete, who is a program officer in charge of psychological rehabilitation at the Independent Medical Legal Unit. Hilda, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And finally, we also have Elias, some say Elias Gikundi, who is the chair of the Kenya Counseling and Psychologists Association. Good morning, Elias, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thanks for having me here.
Okay, now let me kick off with you, Miriam, maybe just in terms of setting the pace for this discussion. What are the trends in terms of mental well-being that we've seen during this pandemic? We're almost marking the 6th month now. What have you been witnessing? What are the trends?
Thank you so much, John. I think, to be very honest, we are living at tight times. Before COVID, before March 2020, for Kenyans, as Kenya Red Cross, we never used to have cases of mental health calling centers within our toll-free line. But as we've grown over time, we would actually start receiving about 100 cases the first 1 week. And we've actually grown to a level where cumulatively you're having about 15,000 people calling in and saying that I have an issue, can I be assisted, and all that. And I think we are right to call it a silent pandemic, because not everyone is able to have the courage and go out and seek that particular support that is required.
Okay, thank you so much. And Hilda, what's your experience in terms of trends?
Right. We at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, we provide medical, legal, and psychological services to victims and families of the state-perpetuated torture. So the provision of psychological services has been at the core of the work that we do over the years, over the last 25 going on 26 years now. But during the pandemic, we have seen an increase in terms of the number of cases that we have recorded and the number of cases that we have been monitoring across the country of cases of police use of excessive force, as they enforce the guidelines set out by government with regards to containment and guarding against the spread of the pandemic. And so since March of this year until sometime mid-August, we have recorded now about 71 cases of police use of excessive force. And this means that then we are also supporting quite a number of family members, who are associated with these victims of police violence. And these are cases that are just COVID related. So we have seen a slight increase in the numbers compared to the previous years where we ordinarily provide support to victims and families of police excesses.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that, Hilda. Now, Mr. Gikundi, as chair of the Kenya Counseling and Psychologists Association, I'm assuming your members have been quite busy in this season.
Yes, our members have been extremely busy across the country. At KCPA, we have 5,800 individual members and 150 institutional members who are agencies providing counseling and psychological services across the country. And during this period of COVID-19, in the last 5 months or so, we've seen increased demands on to our counselors in terms of counseling needs in relation to stigma, in relation to stress and the depression arising from COVID-19 related challenges, with family conflicts, different sorts of addictions that people have been getting into or struggling with, stress and trauma. As a result of the test, sometimes the test is turning positive, and challenging families when their loved ones have got to go to isolation. Individuals struggling with the issues of loss of jobs, loss of livelihood, loss of loved ones, and all that has gotten counselors very engaged in activities of counseling and psychological services.
Okay.
And this,
I'll come back to you for a few more details, but let me turn to my guest in the studio, Mr. Onyango. What's happening at the workplace in terms of mental well-being?
Thank you very much. What is currently happening is that there's an upsurge of psychosocial support and needs to support the people at workplace. HR practitioners all over the country and all over the world, indeed, actually knew that this time is going to come. What they did not know is how soon it's going to come. So COVID-19 has made it come so soon, so close, and caused some kind of unpreparedness. What I can tell you right now, even in our country, is that the urgent need and a lot of the need for psychosocial support is as a result of the societal stress. The stress that we see today is as a result of many factors, not just COVID-19. Remember, we had stress before, but this has just made it worse and made it much more urgent. I say societal because you know, as we say, you spend most of the hours at workplace. You know, if you remove your 6 or so sleeping hours and 4 or so and other things, the remaining 9 or 11, 10 hours are spent at workplace. And then, you know, at workplace, we used to call it then workplace stress. But now, workplace has changed. It is no longer workplace, but it's place of work. Right. And most of the people have made that place of work at home, people working from home and all that. So initially, even the initial stress that people had has now been transferred to households. And that is why when we talk about, for example, use of force by police, it is also the society in general. And what this has cost overall is that the entire fabric of the society is stressed. And that is why, especially from the institute and point of view, we have now mainstreamed counseling and psychosocial support in the curriculum for HR practitioners. We are having about 15,000 or so members, out of which around 6 or so have already attained an advanced diploma in human resource management. And you cannot pass your certification in HR without counseling as a major course. Okay. So that is one of the things that we knew upfront, but now is coming into forefront, and we're giving a lot of emphasis to especially the areas of study of psychosocial counseling.
Okay. Now, thank you so much, Bonanyango. Now, Miriam, we were hearing there from Gikundi about some of the factors attributed to the rise in depression and so on. But from your own experience at Red Cross, when people are seeking help, what kind of issues are emerging?
Thank you so much. We normally do analysis, and majorly what we're seeing is a lot of people are really anxious about their tomorrow. There's too much of fear because COVID is an unfamiliar face, an unfamiliar topic for many, including globally. We're seeing uncertainty because you actually don't know what happens. All we know is that the numbers keep rising from the day to debrief. We're seeing loss of income, loss of jobs completely for some people. And our lifestyle has totally changed as Kenyans. I always say we are social, but here we have limits. Going out, we only go out when it's very necessary. And so the confinement at the family level has actually brought in many other issues. So you actually see that even on top of the list is really those family conflicts, relationship issues, because people are not used to sitting together. And so I think it's just a whole issue that we need to really be looking at and how to address that. Because we have to more or less change how we live, how we relate, how we talk to each other, because you may be talking to somebody who's been carrying a baggage, and so a small thing triggers. So what COVID has actually done for us is just to trigger a lot of emotional things that were previously suppressed and had been suppressed in our systems. And that is what we're seeing. So we have a lot of issues. Top on the list is actually being really fear, anxiety, and income, and then fourthly, issues related to relationship and marriage.
Okay, now to you, Hilda. We've had very bad experience with the police since the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of violence in the hands of the police. What's been the impact of this on the society?
Of course, we have seen a lot of anger, within the Kenyan population, and this was especially so when we witnessed the death of a young boy, a 13-year-old boy who was standing at the balcony of his home. And it's within the containment measures that the government put in place and in the enforcement of these guidelines and these rules by the law enforcement officers that we have seen the excessive use of force. Now, compounding on the matter that we are all dealing with, which is very new, which is the pandemic. I think maybe just a very small population has ever lived through a pandemic. And so we are living through very different times. And so compounding that to the stresses that, my colleagues have talked about, the issues of losses of jobs, the issues of, staying away from each other, social distancing, add on to, police violence and the stresses that everyone is going through. I think that has caused quite a bit of anger. It has caused quite a bit of an uproar. And I think a couple of months ago, we saw, Twitter hashtags going around, even people talking about police violence outside Kenya, for example, in the United States, and that brought about the issue of, can we speak about police violence here in Kenya, and how that has affected us, even as we are dealing with the pandemic. And so I think it's important that we as Miriam has rightfully put it, that the pandemic has just brought about underlying issues that the society is dealing with that have now just been blown out, and now we are having to really think about our mental health wellness generally as a society, as individuals, as government, and as citizens, and to really try and see how can we help each other, as opposed to how can we make the situation worse by either using too much violence or too much force. Yeah.
Okay. Now, back to Mr. Gikundi. Sadly, for some people, when things become really bad, they choose to take their own lives. I don't know whether you have seen any changes in those numbers of people who are taking their own lives in this season?
Okay. There hasn't been scientific research conducted on that, but there has been an increased level of violence, particularly at family level during the isolation and the confinement within families. And that has led definitely to increased either attempted suicide or some successful suicidal attempts. We know the case of Nakuru, where somebody was who turned positive, took a life, unfortunately, due to the stigma that came with that turning positive. And there are many other cases which may have gone unreported, but they have occurred at family level, particularly as a result of violence and conflict situations, and people not being so sure how to deal with each other when they are so confined and they find themselves having to deal with each other at close proximity.
Now, Bwana Gikundi, the things that you mentioned, there are a lot of counselors who've sat for hours and hours listening to this, trying to offer support to these people. But sometimes I wonder, who counsels the counselors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important parameter that counselors need to address themselves to. And we have clinical supervision available for counselors, although not across the board as per the situation demands. We, at the moment, in the last 3 months, we have been rolling out clinical supervision for counselors who are tending to clients in isolation and quarantine centers around the country. That has happened very well in Nairobi. It has happened in Western Kenya, in Siaya, Bukoma, Busia, Kakamega, and the coastal region in Kilifi, Kwale, Mombasa. This is in a partnership between KCPA and the Kenya Red Cross Society, as well as the Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health is highly involved in that arrangement. But there is need for more support to the service providers, not only the counselors, but even the other mainstream health service providers. Okay. One of the challenges that we are encountering a lot is the lack of support from the government and the other employer agencies in terms of even remuneration or supporting the counselors so that they can be able to provide their services as the case demands.
Oh, okay. Mr. Gikundi, thank you.
Something we need to address very, very critically, not only in this forum, but in other forums.
Thank you for that. I want to pick up some of those issues with Mr. Onyango here. But first of all, we're living in very abnormal times, as the CS for Health reminds us. Usually in the workplace, the first point of informal help are colleagues. You know, when someone has an issue and is a colleague you see every day, you speak to them. But now with a lot of remote working, it must make life a little bit difficult, because when you see a colleague maybe after a few weeks, you haven't any idea what they've been going through.
Yeah, indeed true. And what we say here is normally to allow the spread. One of the biggest therapy in our humans is communication, because we are social by nature, and therefore it is therapeutic, first of all, to communicate to each other, for example, at workplace. This has really caused a lot of stress at workplace, because number one, if you look at the place of counseling and social psycho support, normally in our workplaces had been given the lowest, such that we, in the public sector, for example, we had quite a number of counselors, but they were neither given an opportunity or even recognized at workplace, because it was an option. It was really a real last option. Secondly, what has made the challenges that we're having in workplace includes the stigmatization that I don't want to look like I'm stressed, I don't want to look like I'm doing badly, I don't want to look like I'm having some mental disturbance. I want to, actually, it is the converse. And that's why, especially amongst the young people, you'll see what they post in social media and stuff like that, that they're doing extremely well. And so one of the things that now we are dealing with at workplaces is the image that people had portrayed over a period of time and the reality. And some reasons for some of even suicide, it leads to extremes like suicide, is that I feel really extremely bad, and I cannot even manage my emotional intelligence, owing to the fact that people see me or had seen me or assume that my status in society is like this. But myself, in the actual sense, I know where I am. When this is now exposed, people start getting a lot of stress.
So the difficulty of saying, I'm not okay, I'm not doing okay.
Yeah, it is very difficult for people to say, I'm not doing okay, actually I'm stressed and all this. And this is what we are telling now, especially people at workplace, that say your real situation, your real conditions. The COVID, especially the issues of working at home, and this for sure, you'll see that people have really, over a period of time, really struggled to do serious makeups in their homes for purposes of, being seen, this is where I live and stuff like that. Some even exaggerate. And why is this? Why does this have the impact? How does it impact at workplace? Number one, we start with the usual, change in the working atmosphere for individuals within the office. That the communication you've talked about is not there. People very good organizations that have very strong HR systems would have actually a fallback, a confidential person in HR, probably to give guidance, to give that support. They will not feel very nice or very free to do it remotely because of whatever reasons, individual reasons. But and then the issue of also people being pushed to productivity. One of the things that I want to mention as early as now, quite a number of people were laid off at workplace, and therefore we are having thinner numbers in the workplace. And
the smaller teams having to work harder.
They must really work harder to achieve that standard. That by itself causes a lot of stress. But remember, the people, my individual perspective is the people who have actually been laid off probably are much better off than the people who are left back at workplace.
Really?
And the reason is that these people who are left, they're faced with more issues. Number one is the anxiety, that what next? Especially, when something is done in FACE. Of course, it started off by asking people to go and leave. Then secondly, it is mandatory leave. Then thirdly, half pay, stuff like that. As it graduates, then some of the non-essential had to be laid off for business to continue, and so on and so forth. So that anxiety is even worse for the people left behind. Then the normal stress, especially from leadership. If we do not have leadership that are empathetic to the people, like you still push for numbers, you still push for results, you still push for the bottom line, as opposed to leaders who actually look at the people first, and then the other things fall in place. And you can see there's a lot of changes at workplace, and this is what we are telling business leaders and actually HR managers are emphasizing to the organizations. That number one, of most important of this change is that we are moving from organizations just looking at bottom line, Because over the period of time, that is what we're used to. That for me, for this organization, what is the bottom line after all this?
Right.
Now we are looking at what we call the top line, which means you're looking at the person holistically, the individual, the employee, the person working, that how does this, it is not so much...
So the focus on the human being
is much more today, as opposed to the financials and the, you know, and the visibility and all that.
Okay, so let me put you on hold for a moment. I want to tackle the question of stigma, and I want to come to you, Miriam, first. Already there is stigma around COVID-19 itself. Now then you add on top of that sort of, you know, our mental health being, and this has become a bit of a problem for many people.
Yes, true. We actually are dealing with stigma, real stigma in our society. And the reason why I say true and real stigma is that first is that COVID being a very infectious disease, we're looking at if I move near this person who is suspected too, then I'm likely to be infected. So in itself, the society had already some sort of stigma that was associated with different levels of socioeconomic angle. But now with the COVID coming in and truly looking at the impact, then you actually realize that we're dealing with so much stigma that even going for tests is impacted by the same stigma. So what we're saying is that because we've stigmatized the disease through the chain, I would fear to go for a test because I do not want to be known to have the infection. And even if I am positive, or even for the people that are actually currently on home-based isolation and care, I can tell you for free that they would not like their neighbor to know that they're positive. Reason they do not want their families to be stigmatized. So what stigma is actually doing is also limiting access to services. When you look at stigma from that point, you realize that it's going to kill us at the end of the day, and the best we can do is to embrace it, so that those that are positive can actually be supported by their neighbors, because you could be in isolation if you do not have food, because you've also not even told your neighbor that you're actually in isolation. So who supports you? So the support system, the fiber that would have actually helped us at such a time, is actually breaking because of the stigma that we're seeing. And looking at even what we're seeing currently from Kenya Red Cross and through our toll-free line that we have a 1199 toll-free line, is that you see that the women are actually coming out much more. We have, within the numbers that we're seeing, about 63% of them are women. So the rest, the 37, are actually men. And you see when the daily briefs are actually being read, men are the ones in the bigger numbers. So what is happening within those numbers where men are actually leading in terms of infection, yet in terms of support, they're not actually coming out. So we're saying that we do not have to not address stigma, and especially if they're not so bold enough. Because mental health in such a scenario, it's not really like in the site. We used to mental health being for the mad person, and that's how it was branded. And we need to start appreciating that mental health is part of the health definition. Mental health is with us. When the CS says that 1 in 10 people have suffering from some form of mental health, it is true. So it is good that we start embracing that, reduce the stigma that it goes along with some of these services that we do, so that Kenyans can actually access the services we require. Because we would like to support each other. That's the best way we can do at such a time.
Thank you, Miriam. I think, Gikundi, if you could also address this, how do you encourage people to seek help? In other words, tackling stigma around mental health.
One of the things we need to admit is the fact that counseling, we all need counseling at one point or another. And people need not to have broken down to a certain level to require counseling. Counseling is a service that should be accessed for our ordinary, normal life situations. And when somebody seeks help, it's a point of strength as opposed to being a point of weakness. If we accept that, and we agree that mental health is a service like any other, as Miriam has correctly put it, then people will feel that they can seek help, and it will not be stigmatized. Because sometimes people even stigmatize seeking help itself. in terms of mental health, because people are bound to think many times that one has lost it, but that's not the case. That's not the case. It's normal, ordinary day challenges.
And now, Mr. Gikundi, just on that, as was pointed out there, men are much slower in terms of seeking help. How do you know when you need help or when it's time to seek help? What are the signs to look for?
There need not to be major significant signs that one will need to seek help. People need to seek help just to be listened to be attended to explore issues that they are dealing with on a normal day-to-day situation. Men in terms of seeking help, psychological help and mental health, they are much fewer than women do seek help, and that can be related to our upbringing and the societal way of addressing the men and women, where men are taught that they should be strong, they should not be seen crying, they should not be weak. Seeking help is a point of weakness, and the men tend to think that should be the situation, and we can see that related to even issues like COVID-19 at the moment, where the percentages of men who are affected or are COVID-19 positive are much more, since due to their health-seeking behavior mechanisms. We have heard this from our CS many times, talking about men's behavior vis-a-vis women's behavior, and that cuts across in a host of other ways of life.
Okay. Now, Hilda, let me come to you now and maybe address this whole issue of violence. We have state state violence or violence, by state, organizations like the police. But you also have quite a bit of violence that we've been reporting from the homes. What impact is that having on our society, especially, domestic violence?
Well, we have seen a lot of cases, like you put it, we have recorded quite a number of cases of police violence during the enforcement of the containment measures. But we have also seen a rise in domestic violence cases or intimate partner violence cases. And I remember, I think there was a video that has been circulating on social media, a couple fighting, and the police are there trying to restrain the man unsuccessfully. And these are just some of the resultant effects of dealing with mental health issues that go unaddressed over a period of time. When we're talking about stigma, it's important to also normalize talking about mental health issues. Normalize talking about stress and depression and anxiety and behavioral problems when it comes to children, and even just within the family unit. We, I think, have grown up in a society that tends to hide behind closed doors. We have had quite a number of cases of couples fighting and neighbors turning down the volumes of their TVs or their radios to just listening to what is happening, as opposed to rushing out to maybe try and help or calling out for help for these couples or families who are going through violence. But it's also important for the public to have an awareness of where can we seek help should we have issues. I know there's a toll-free line that was set up through the Ministry of Health in addressing mental health issues, I think just during this COVID pandemic, but also I'm hoping that this remains, and it's a beautiful thing that we have the mental health task force that went around the country to just collect ideas and collect information from the public about what is really causing the moral fabric of our society to break down. We have seen, femicide, cases of femicide, I think last year in part of this year, not just in Kenya, in South Africa, in Nigeria, and in so many other countries. And I think it just boils down to, we are not talking about mental health issues. We are not addressing it. We are not nipping it at the bud. We are not thinking about the children who are being raised in violent homes, and not paying attention to the fact that these children who are looking at their parents fighting will begin to normalize the behavior that is, violence, that you can sort out differences through violent behavior or through violent outbursts. And I think the issue then begins to be addressed at that particular point. Can we talk about it? Are we free to talk about it? Are we able to know where to go for help, for example? And if we begin to address where the problem is at the family unit, then I think we can begin to address some of these issues that we are seeing going around, and even to a point of, circulating through social media with no help, really.
Okay, now thank you for that. Mr. Onyango, what are the challenges from a HR perspective of managing staff, managing the workplace in the pandemic? Is HR also evolving with the times?
Yes, HR has drastically evolved, especially because we started the issues of discussing the future of work early enough, even before the pandemic. What this has done is that the things we thought as HR practitioners are going to come in the next 10, 15, 20 years have come right now. The issues of, first of all, let me start by saying the causes of stress at workplace are about 80 or 85% HR. What are these HR factors that causes stress as workplace? Number one, the issues to do with recruitment, the issues to do with promotions, the issues to do with the pay compensation, the issues to do with the disciplinary process, the issues to do with now the soft ones like recognition, that I feel I've done all this work, my colleague has done this, but she or he is being recognized over me. So it causes stresses at workplace and a lot of competition because of the push for productivity. Those are some of the factors that cause stress today at workplace. So what HR practitioners and what we should, all the leaders need to get to address first is that fundamental. And we call those basic HR practices. Why basic? Actually, the move for the future of HR is that those skills are supposed to be with the line managers. They're the people who manage the workers directly. So all as when you go to supervision and when you go into management, automatically you should have those HR skills in order to have fairnesses in all the HR processes, in order to be empathetic with the people that you lead. And therefore, what will HR be left to do will be a serious specialist role in giving out or in sharing or in educating the line managers on. It will be really specialist, and that is where the future of HR is. And we are saying that the first address is basically that. The next level is where now HR are involved to say, in our workplaces, what is it that we want to focus on to make our businesses better? And that is why I said that we are moving from bottom line to actually top line. And we need to see, when you're describing a job, for example, what are the jobs that will be lowly paid, highly paid, moderately paid? And in HR terms, we call it job evaluation. And in this job evaluation, there are what we call compensable factors. What are these factors that you look at that should be highly compensated? Previously, the factors that we used to know are you technically skilled? So for us, technical people were the most respected people in any organization. Technical, I mean the core business of that organization. And then any other thing around it is what we call support, that it is supporting the core business.
Now we in terms of job descriptions and so on, we used to talk a lot about resilience, but now actually managing stress is a huge issue, as we've seen in the pandemic.
Absolutely, it is indeed true, because you see now today here, and what has changed at workplace and for HR people, things like hygiene, that job of cleanliness and all that should be actually rated very high, you know. As a result, we've just realized that the basic hygienes which we used to ignore and think that these are just casual workers and it does not contribute. But today, as it is, before you come here, you can imagine the processes you go through. Yeah? And therefore, if we still rate that job where we rate it at, it means that we are having our priorities not correctly. And we need to look at jobs in totality. We need to look at individuals being able to be flexible much more, to be multi-skilled in many ways, so that you don't have someone making a cup of coffee, you can't, making a cup of coffee for you, another one cleaning up after you, another one fixing the, we expect when you come to workplace, you are able to actually do that by yourself. It's a shared responsibility. Shared responsibilities.
Okay.
And yes.
Mr. Nyongo, I think there's a question here popping up for you from our viewers. And this person is asking, this is Boniface Jalango, who's saying, can the panelists also advise on how to break the news of job loss to your partner and children, especially men who are in many cases the breadwinners? Let me start with you. How do you handle that? You've lost your job, you need to go back to the family to explain that. How do you do that?
Where we go wrong in the first instance is how us as employers, we give that information to employees. Because I know a lot of instances in Australia and all that, they're being told tomorrow there's no work, that's it. There's no, we do not go to the extent, we do not take our time to explain why, for example, yes, everybody knows there's the pandemic and there's no source of income, but we don't open up to tell our staff the reasons and what are the possibilities and provision of hope. You see, there's a huge concert, is it today or tomorrow, about just giving Kenyans hope, because people live a lot by hope. So one of the biggest challenges that we are having, especially with managements that do not prepare their staff and employees on what is coming, is it can really be traumatic. One of the ways that you need to communicate...
Maybe just before that, on that point that you've touched on, there are organizations where when they need to break that news, they tell you on the day, I'm sorry, this is your last day at work.
Yes.
Is this normal? Is this human?
It is not human at all. And we are saying that we need, if the organization does not have the culture of treating its people as human beings, they wouldn't think about it. They wouldn't think it is important to prepare you psychologically. They wouldn't think it is important to let you know what are the other options. For example, before I lay you off, I need to give you some options. And it is possible, and it's only, we need to think hard, and that's why there are leaders and there are people who follow us. So that the leadership is charged with thinking harder about issues like what are the steps that I need. I already know about the future and the income of the organization, and I have this person, not just as a worker, but as a human being, first of all. Organizations need to know you beyond yourself as an individual. I need to know you as a complete person. I know you are a husband, you are a wife, you are a father, you are, all that, such that any decision that I make in consideration of that.
Okay, so Mr. Nyongo, I have this terrible letter in my pocket now. I'm going to face the family in the evening. How do I handle that news? My children, everybody is dependent on me.
Similarly, in most cases, you treat others the way you've been treated. What causes stresses in the family is because I'm already mistreated at workplace. I'm likely to do the same at home. So if I feel I've been treated with I've been treated humanly, a responsible breadwinner will also probably not even give that information immediately. Some people, because of the lack of emotional intelligence, and this is an important ingredient in today's workplace, they would just get back to the house, feel like it's a shame, break down, maybe even in front of children and family, and especially if you're the man of the house and you've already broke. So you've completely lost hope to your children, siblings, and all your dependents. What people need to do to understand, and this emanates especially how you are as well treated in the workplace, you can actually be having that letter and you do not disclose that on the same day that you arrive home with. So you ponder over it at night, probably with your spouse. You start bringing the topic slowly and say, by the way, things are not good at workplace, and we are going to be affected. That I know as an individual, as a breadwinner, and we need to start having certain cuts here and there. We need to start thinking how we are going to travel, or how we are going to distribute our other sources of income, if it is especially matters of income, how we are going to adjust to the new style. And organizations actually responsible to provide counseling services to these staff whom they're departing with.
Okay.
And that helps quite a great deal.
Let me also get a perspective from Mr. Gikundi. Again, on the same issue, when you're carrying bad news back home, how do you share this, or do you break it with the family, Bwana Gikundi?
I mean, loss of a job is one of the biggest losses. Second to loss of a loved one, and it's a difficult situation for somebody to go home and break the news. But as Mr. Onyango has put it rightly, preparation by an employer can help in mitigating the way in which the staff is going to break the news. But most of it, that loss of a job should not be an emergency. It should not be an emergency. People need to be prepared even while they are at work. Even while they are at work, that there comes a time when they can lose their job. It doesn't make it easier, but definitely it helps the staff to go home and be able to convene a meeting, a consultation meeting with the spouse, with the children. Sometimes children even come to learn about it way later. There are people who lose their jobs and they wake up every morning, dress, and go as though they are going to their workplace. Yeah. They go maybe to a marketplace. They go to the nearby their workplace and come back later in the day. But
is that denial?
Because it's difficult to even talk about it with the loved ones. And that should be addressed while people are at work and even when they are exiting. There should be exit preparation.
Okay.
Appropriate exit preparation. And if possible, there are some companies which include even a family member.
Yes.
A spouse, for instance, getting that news and the information earlier is also important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bwana Gikundi. And I know some employers are even kind enough to have exit interviews to get feedback from the employee before he leaves. Now, we're going to take a short break, but just before we do that, here are some comments from you on our hashtag New Normal. Ruth says, counseling only helps when parties are honest and ready to change. Okay, thanks. And this one is from Prince John Safers. Not yet, but I'm really in need of one. Please help. Well, give us a few more details. We may be able to point you in the right direction if you're really looking for counseling services. Karen Mwangi, you say, thank you, team. Even the police are equally stressed. This is an area we seriously need to focus on as counselors, as we do with the frontliners. That's a really valid point. And Guye, you say, well, no health without mental health. We need urgent progress of the 2014 bill to make mental health more visible and accessible. Thanks for that, and that's one to bring back to Gikundi in a moment. Karen Mwangi again, well, thanks, Chair, KCPA and team. Let's keep up the good work. Asante sana. And another one here from Jackie Daido Achieng. Even if we speak, who will hear us? That's one I'll post to my panel. Is there any point in speaking? Who is listening? We're on a short break now. We'll be right back with more on Your World.
do. Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands, now add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub a dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands and go.
Achille, why do we wash our hands?
To wash away the germs.
Achille, what are germs?
They're like tiny little bugs on your hands and they can make you sick.
But I don't see any germs on my hand.
That's because they're so tiny that you can't even see them.
Oh wow! I want to wash the germs away. Will you wash your hands with me, Achille?
Of course!
Ndovu flowers are fortified with vitamins and minerals to provide wholesome goodness for the whole family. Ndovu all-purpose flour makes the most delicious chapatis, mandazis and all other pastries. Ndovu is readily available at your nearest shop. Ndovu Tosha.
The evolution brought by devolution has been televised as it sought to bring services closer to the people.
They have abused the system of devolution. It is not at all the devolution that was adopted in Burma.
The majority of Kenyans did not understand what is devolution.
Devolution was an idea whose time had come. Devolution has brought power closer to the people.
The Constitution says by the 15th of each month, money should go to the counties. Then it doesn't.
I look forward to the day when we will be sufficiently bold to reduce the number of devolved units.
The Constitution now has made health services a devolved function. So we have to implement the Constitution.
We the people, in partnership with UNDP.
Do you struggle with bad breath or know somebody who struggles with it despite how many times they brush their teeth? Halitosis is actually the technical term. Now, anyone can suffer from bad breath, but to each their own reason.
Halitophobia. There are some people who just feel like, oh, I have bad breath. Now, the genuine one has many causes. So there are dental causes and there are other causes.
We find out what the causes are and why some people just will not get rid of this condition. And also, is it possible to be free of it?
What is she doing here?
She's coming with us.
If she's going, I won't.
We won't gain anything with the two of us fighting.
He's already here for me. Why are you going out with Carito? I saw you with her in town.
Saw us where? Ramon told me you were going with a boss.
Don't try to change the subject. Do you think it's right for you to go out with that woman?
I just ended a very complicated relationship. That poor excuse of a man has been making my life a living, breathing nightmare.
That's what I'm saying, Lashana. I don't want to see my nanny sad anymore.
I think the time has come to give myself another chance to be happy.
Along came love, in association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
Nawa mikono kwa sekunde 20 kama Elmo.
Are you a business owner? Sign up today to accept fast, easy and secure payments through Visa. What's more, enjoy flexible financing options for your business. Call us today on 0703 095 445.
Welcome back to Your World, and this morning we're looking at counseling and counseling services, how to get them, and how to keep up with your mental well-being. My panel this morning is Mr. Joseph Onyango, who's with me in the studio. He is the chair of the Institute of Human Resource Management. We also have via Zoom Miriam Bembe, who's the head of health at the Kenya Red Cross Society, speaking to us from Mombasa this morning. We're also joined by Hilda Nyatete, who is a program officer in charge of psychological rehabilitation at the Independent Medical Legal Unit. And we also have via Zoom Elias Gikundi, who is chair of the Kenya Counseling and Psychologists Association. But just before we get back into our discussion, now the latest murder of a young woman in Meru County by her police officer lover has been described by psychologists as a time bomb. Psychologists blame the lack of commitment by the National Police Service to look into the mental well-being of its officers.
Police communication at Lare Police Station recorded a shooting incident at 21:30 hours on the night of August the 22nd within the precincts of the station. Officer Faris Mwangi, who was on duty at the time, shot his girlfriend Evelyn Njoki on her right cheek after the two had an argument.
Mtu mmoja kutoka police station ya Mutwati Kabaki police post ambaye alikuwa amepangwa kasi ya kwa station card, na alipochukua kasi saa 2:30 akaomba mwenzake nafasi, akamwambia aende kwa nyumba afae jacket, na ndipo alichukua hiyo nafasi kukuja moja kwa moja mpaka Lare akiwa na bunduki yake na akiwa na uniform.
Alikuwa ameolewa na huyo askari. Sasa tumepigwa simu tukaambiwa amepigwa risasi 6. Na tumeenda tukadhibitisha tukaona ni ukweli.
Ni hasira alikuwa nazo, angempiga hata risasi moja kama wazazi tungejua kuongea, lakini kama hizo risasi zimesidi.
Mwangi is currently on the run while the victim is undergoing treatment. Police have launched a manhunt for one of their own as investigations into the matter continue. With the cases of officers involved in shootings rising in the last few months, psychologists now say that there is an urgent need for the government to be offering counseling services to the officers.
A whole range of diseases around it. And one of it ni tunasema emotional instability. Yani kuwa wewe huwezi dhibiti mambo ya mafikira, mawazo, the emotional part of you. Na hasa inapokuwa inahusu wasichana, inabidi sasa kijana badala ya, kwa sababu ana hiyo uwezo, ndio inabidi sasa achukue hatua ya isiyo ya kawaida.
Mithika adds that the police commanders should be taught on how to identify their stressed junior officers and the action they should take to help such officers. Psychologists further say that there is also a need to include a lesson on police training curriculum on how to deal with stress. According to Ezra Sambu, the OCS Lare police station, the officer disagreed with his girlfriend Evelyn Njoki over the weekend, shooting her 3 times. Njoki was rushed to Maua Methodist Hospital where she was attended before being transferred to Meru Teaching and Referral Hospital and later referred to the Kenyatta National Hospital while in critical condition.
Wako mbioni kumtafuta na tunafikiria maybe kitabu ifike kesho tutakuwa tumemwesa kumnasa.
The OCS says the officers at Lare police station managed to disarm the officer before he fled. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Hilda, let's get some reaction on this story and indeed a comment from one of our viewers regarding members of the police force or the security services also are under stress, and I'm not too sure to what extent that is also projected onto the civilian population. What's your experience? Hello, Hilda, can you hear me? Sorry, just unmute. Try again.
Right. Sorry about that.
Right. So I was saying, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that police officers are inherently exposed to stresses that come with their work. Arguably, they're routinely attending to very gory incidences of violence, dealing with criminals, and so on and so forth. And of course, just by virtue of the fact that they are first responders to issues of disasters and things like that. And so we cannot fail to acknowledge that they are routinely exposed to stresses that need to be managed on a routine basis or in a routine manner. It's also important for me to take note of the fact that there's the larger issue of the police reforms agenda, and maybe it's important for me to also just mention that there are a conglomeration of quite a number of civil society organizations under the umbrella of the Police Reform Working Group Kenya, who are working also very closely with the Inspector General's office, looking at various aspects, key among them being police welfare. And under the umbrella of the Police Reform Working Group, police welfare stands out in the fact that we need to also pay very close attention to mental health well-being of the police officers. It's important to also just acknowledge the fact that the Office of the IG has set up a counseling unit, if I may call it so. It's still being established, and I have to acknowledge the fact that there are counselors, there are trained psychologists within the National Police Service. And we are hoping that this psychological support will spread through even at the point of recruitment, at the point of training of these new recruits and police officers, and the actual provision of counseling services to the police officers themselves. Okay. As IMBLU, we are working with 4 counties on the issue of supporting community policing structures. And part of that also includes provision of debriefing services or debriefing support to police officers. That is just a drop in the ocean. I would encourage that we also flip the coin, in as much as we like to point fingers at police officers, and we are also at loggerheads with police officers, and we like to call them to account, especially on issues of police excesses, just by virtue of the kind of work that we do. But it's also important for us to acknowledge the stresses that they are going through, and to try and see how we can bridge the gap and provide the support that we can provide as civil society organizations, but also how well can we work with the Office of the Inspector General to ensure that these police officers are adequately supported.
Sure. Okay.
We have seen so many, yeah.
Thanks so much, Hilda, for that. Let me quickly turn to Nyangoro on that. I mean, the police service is also a workplace. Are they getting the help that they need, Mr. Onyango?
Yes, I want to talk a bit more authoritatively on this, because at the same time I'm the CEO of the National Police Service Commission, which is also part of the police reforms working group that Hilda has mentioned. It is actually not true that there's no counseling services in the police. I saw the report that we should introduce and all that. This has already been introduced. The National Police Service Commission has already set up counseling center and counseling facilities. The Inspector General has even launched the various regional centers where police can go for counseling services. And but here then comes what is the challenge today, because of the drastic effect and the current impact on the stresses among police officers. What has happened is that, number one, just like the general society, people are not ready, police officers are not readily turning out to these centers for help. And most officers are actually quite stressed, but they don't speak it out. Can you imagine, just, I don't know whether to call it toxic masculinity or anything. You as a man, first of all, you don't like to be seen as such. Now a police officer or a disciplined or uniformed man, that would be the least option, because you are regarded as, quite weak and all this. Now, one of the things that we are doing in the service is to just ensure that that communication to police officers is there, that to police officers across the country is that we can help. But I think one of the most important things that I'd like to say is we are addressing the causes of this stress. And as I mentioned before on the general HR area, that the causes of stress are the basic HR issues. The issues of compensation, the issues of fairnesses, the issues of promotions, the issues of transfers, the issues of handling disciplinary processes, and so on and so forth. And in most of the time, these are the things that the police officers then transfer to their spouses and even to the general public at large. It is really quite important to know that we are really coming from a bad past. And we really need to put much more effort, even as the government has really given a lot of effort on this area, and it has actually provided a lot of support to the service. Now, what we are currently dealing with is infiltration of the psychological support and acceptance to the police officers. We may not miss one or two of such events, but I can tell you that today, because it is much easier for someone with a firearm to actually get enraged and use it as opposed to the ordinary person out there. But the comfort is that there's a lot of, the entire strategic plan for National Police Service Commission is just about one thing, it's about police welfare. And that is what the Commission is addressing, and in due course, we cannot miss, like in any other society, these are a few incidences of the excesses and the people who, who go way over, but the assurance is that that is really being addressed.
Okay, Vanunyango, thank you. Miriam, let me come to you now, and let's talk about seeking help. First of all, where do we get this health, this mental health support from when we need it?
Thank you. The various places you need to get help from. But what I would stress is you need to get help from a professional point. And so within the Kenya setup as we are, we actually have different counselors, different counseling associations that are set up. Starting from what, for example, the viewer asked, where can I get help from? There's a toll-free line, 1199. 24 hours, you will get counselors on standby. That is a toll-free line that is manned at Kenya Red Cross, but it's not really a Kenya Red Cross toll-free. It is a toll-free to serve Kenyans. It has a link with the 719, the COVID number. So we normally receive clients from the 719 to 1199. So it is important that people can actually pick whichever handset, do a phone call, get someone to listen to them so that they actually can get help. Other than that, we also have counselors, lay counselors, and we have professional counselors that we have been able to train together with the associations that are listed. So you actually find that wherever you are, even if you are in Samburu, you'll actually get a counselor that will be able to provide services to you. The only step that we need to do as human beings is to step out. Counselors will not come to you. It is you to be bold enough to step out and look for services. And look for services in the right place. And I think that's why today we are talking about professional counselors. Not everyone will give you the support that you need. So you look for services from the right person so that, because mental health can actually, somebody can break your mental status because they're not professional. It's just like the way the doctors would, if they mismanage you, you die. It's the same way. If you go to a wrong person to guide you, you actually lose perspective in life.
Okay, thank you. Let me take that up, last point, and take it to Mr. Gikundi. Now, we have all kind of counselors. Pastors are counselors. People in the village are counselors. Who really is a counselor?
A counselor should be a professional who is trained and has the competencies to work with a client and the emotional disposition that is required to be able to support a client professionally. Well, people may say that anybody can be a counselor, but not anybody can be a counselor. Not everybody can be a counselor. Counseling is not a neutral service. It is a service that can either help or damage the client that is seeking help. And we, one of the viewers did ask a question where on the implementation of the Mental Health Act. It talked about the Mental Health Act 2014. I think he or she was talking about the Counselors and Psychologists Act 2014, which has been lying in the Ministry of Health for 7 years now, down the line, and its implementation would stipulate who a counselor is. It's clearly stipulated within the Counselors and Psychologists Act. Somebody who has at least a diploma qualification, somebody who is already registered with a professional association, somebody who is practicing ethically and professionally. So people need to go to seek help from professionals who are trained. The government needs to implement that act. We have a scheme of service, also 2017, for counselors and psychologists, and the scheme of service stipulates who a counselor is that people should seek help from. And if the act and the scheme of service is implemented, then there should be counselors not only in the police department, but in all the departments across the board, and in other employer agencies. Other employer agencies should be able to provide with a qualified and professional counselor that staff and the communities can be able to access service from.
Okay,
if
so
we are that service, like in the Ministry of Health, a counselor should be available at the health center level, just like other service providers are available at that particular level. And a consultant counselor clinician should be available either at county level or sub-county levels.
Okay, Mr. Gikundi, thank you. Miriam, a quick one for you. Now we're in the era of telecounseling. I'm assuming that the telephone has made life a little bit easier in terms of seeking help.
Yes, I think the modalities around counseling has definitely changed with COVID. So we have to embrace telecounseling for reasons of all the infection prevention control. But one of the things that we have actually seen is that telecounseling has impacted people's lives. We've actually seen people calling back and saying thank you and looking for that specific counselor that took them through. Maybe they were at the verge of taking their own lives. So, and I'm actually, for me, we are really embracing the new technology. And because also telecounseling allows you to reach more people from different contexts, then that actually also in one way enhances confidentiality, because you may not want to go to the health center for that counselor that comes from the same village. So we are also able to provide an array of services, people calling from all over, and we've seen quite positive feedback getting back.
Thank you. And Hilda, a very quick comment from you. For people who are struggling with maybe impact of violence or domestic violence or violence from whatever force that may be, where do you get help from briefly?
I think before I talk about where to get help from Moringe, it's important to begin to normalize mental health support on seeking out mental health services. It's important that we demystify psychological mental health issues. Be mindful of the language that we have, and the language that we speak with regards to mental health issues at the family level, at community level, at organizational level. Provide these services and provide the avenues through which people can reach out to counselors and psychologists. There are quite a number of organizations I know that are dealing with the issues of gender-based violence. I think there's the number 1195 in addition to the 1199 toll-free numbers that people can call and be directed and be referred appropriately. You can also reach out to us, at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, and we'll be able to provide the support that is required, especially on cases of police violence or government perpetrated or state-perpetrated violence for that matter. But lastly, I think it's also important to, I see very many people who are very keen on eating healthy, exercising, and taking care of their physical bodies. It is important that we begin to normalize taking care of our mental health. Self-care is very important, and self-care looks differently to many different people. You know, it means taking time off. It means switching off social media, switching off the television, switching off, you know, toxic information that we are taking in every single day. It means taking care of your children and you know, minimizing the exposure to toxic information that is generally out there in the public. So I think it's important for us to keep a lookout on all these aspects or all these areas, even as we are talking about, you know, reaching out through these toll-free numbers. And I'm glad that Miriam has talked about telecounseling, because that is one of the steps that we are taking towards demystifying counseling. It's very difficult for somebody to openly talk about, you know, I'm going to see a counselor, or I'm going to see a psychiatrist, or I'm going to see a psychologist. And it's easier now if you pick up a telephone and, you know, make that quick phone call and you know, be able to reach out to somebody, and maybe even just anonymously talk to somebody about the issues or the challenges that you're struggling with. So for me, demystifying the provision of these services and the access to these services is the first step that we must be cognizant of as a society, as a community, even as we are talking about, you know, going to the gym and taking care of what we are eating. Taking care of your mental health, for me, supersedes, you know, going to the gym and your physical body, because if you're set in your mind, everything else then falls into place. Okay. So for domestic violence cases, I know there's a gender violence recovery center at the Nairobi Women's Hospital. There's a gender violence recovery center in the Kenyatta National Hospital. There's a 116 number, I think, for Childline, or for issues of child protection. So reach out to all these numbers. The beauty about them is that they are toll free. You can call from wherever at any time, and you'll be able to find somebody at the other end of the line.
Okay. Hilda, thank you very much. Yeah. And if you're watching this and going through an issue, don't suffer in silence. There is help available. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back with more on this conversation in your world.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
That is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Get free access to digital learning today. For primary and secondary students, one can now access learning and revision materials that has been approved by KICD. Dial *291# and subscribe to Safaricom Digital Learning and Shupavu 291 today. Tufungue njia, elimu iendelee. East Africa is transforming, and so is the East African. Cultural, social and economic integration is resulting in the transformation of the East African region. To stay true to this changing perspective, the East African is also transforming. To understand the region, get your copy of the East African. It's now more diverse, more visual and more engaging. The East African, understanding the region.
This is Fact Finder from the BBC.
Fake news was so good that so many issues arose before the demonstrations.
The authoritative sources of information
it is becoming difficult to identify them.
Now, what was the role of misinformation in Zimbabwe's protest? We'll tell you what we found out.
We look at what happens when Facebook works with independent fact-checking organizations to combat misinformation on their platform.
And social media applications are tightening the news on misinformation with new features on their sites.
Vina vegetable oil stays liquid to the last drop, so it's smooth cooking from start to finish. Now with an easy-to-pour cap. Mapishi poa, madishi poa.
Are you a business owner? Sign up today to accept fast, easy and secure payments through Visa. What's more, enjoy flexible financing options for your business. Call us today on 0703 095 445.
Welcome back to Your World, and this morning we are focusing on our mental well-being. My panel is Mr. Joseph Onyango, who is the chair of the Institute of Human Resource Management. We're also joined via Zoom, all the way from Mombasa, by Miriam Bembe. She is the head of health at the Kenya Red Cross Society. We also have with us Hilda Nyatete, a program officer in charge of psychological rehabilitation at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, and also Elias Gikundi, who is the chair of the Kenya Counseling and Psychologists Association. Just before we get back into the discussion, let's take a few minutes to look at what else is happening in the other world. Now, initiatives to alleviate hunger, a problem that Chile had thought eradicated, have multiple during the pandemic, with soup kitchens and several restaurants, including Gourmet, turning on their ovens to make sure no one goes without food. Ruth Lagos, organizer of Las Guerreras Food Kitchen, says that's what drives us, not just me, to be here every day, to give them food, a decent meal, to try to do our best, to give them food that you eat, not just pure water. I don't know if we can give it to them tomorrow, so if we can do so now, well, let's give them decent food, something warm. Tourists in search of wide open spaces have turned to France's Auvergne region, which has benefited from the cumulative effects of the coronavirus and the heat wave. Melanie Poff, a tourist from Paris, says it's peaceful. Actually, even if we're in tourist places, there are very few people, so that's still good. When we see the videos, at least I watch the news with the beach, and it's not just possible. I can't spend holidays at the beach, so there we're still in a quiet place, in fact, very quiet and green, and we don't have a lot of people. And even if there are tourists, it's still a reasonable number. Stephen Mcgronigal is the last traditional rabbit catcher in Ireland. He uses a dog to find warrens and ferrets to flush out rabbits before dispatching them by hand. Though distasteful to some, he believes the old ways are more environmentally friendly than many modern techniques.
Dog to mark the holes, then we put the nets down, and then we use the ferrets, and the ferrets simply flush. It's their natural instinct. It's very natural. That's what they've done. It's just in their brain to do. They just, a small dark tunnel, they'll go down, and if the rabbit's there, the rabbit will simply straight out and into the net, and that's it. We dispatch the rabbit quickly and cleanly, and that rabbit's had a good life, and we give it a good death. That's all we can do. It's a sort of traditional way, but then in doing it that way, we don't damage the ground. We're not laying poisons. We're not we give the rabbits a quick and clean death, and that's most important. Nobody loves rabbits more than me, and I love nothing more than to see rabbits, and to see the end of the rabbits is that's not what you want. But we have to keep the balance. The countryside is always about the balance. It doesn't appeal to a lot of people, but the problem is nowadays that the population is getting bigger, and people are building houses further and further and further, and they're encroaching into the countryside every day. And what that does is it knocks out the balance of that pyramid of food chain. So people might say, well, what is the benefit of you killing rabbits or culling rabbits? But you know, everything has to be balanced. So you know, there has to be food.
The 97th annual Lacuna Bike Week celebration in New Hampshire, which started draws hundreds of thousands of bikers lining the streets and sees a significantly lower attendance than previous years amid the COVID-19 pandemic after it was delayed from June to late August.
An average year, we might see around 300,000 people over the 9 days of the rally. You would see centerline motorcycle only parking on Lakeside Avenue. There would be hundreds of vendors with motorcycle wares and things of that nature throughout Weirs Beach. So there's an awful lot that's different. What is the same though, that's still pretty great, is the camaraderie that is amongst the motorcyclists.
Oh, it's about probably 10% of what normally is here. Okay. Yeah. It's a bust. And, you know, the local business people are the ones that are going to lose the most.
I think the bikers are trying to do their best, but there's a lot of people that spend money on hotels. You know, a year ago, they already made their plans to take time off from work, and they don't want to not come here. They want to be here.
Foreign domestic workers in Lebanon say they've been feeling left out since a huge blast at Beirut port on August the 4th ripped through large swathes of the city, killing 181 people and leaving thousands homeless. With the raging economic and health crisis also affecting their livelihoods, many are now pleading to be repatriated to their countries, a process made harder by Lebanon's sponsorship system that has repeatedly been condemned by human rights groups as abusive and racist.
I finished my contract in Lebanon. I wanted to go back. They refused to send me back. Then I run away from my contract. I stay outside working. So after then, I get married here. I have a little kid. You know, it's very hard. And this bomb explosion happened. Now there's no economic. Now you want $100, you can maybe 700,000 Lebanese or 1 million. Who can bring that kind of money to go back to your country? Even that day, all the girls, we run away. Me, I was married, but I run away. My husband, she took me to the mountain, to my other sisters. That day, some of the girls, their house was broken. We go and stay in the mountain, like for 2-3 days, to come back to Beirut to see if they can fix their house to stay. But no one asks about us.
We know of at least 12 deceased migrant workers. I am sure the number is higher. We know of at least 3 missing migrant workers. The number of injuries, unfortunately, we could not assess, but we did a few visits in Karantina. Their homes are completely destroyed and they cannot afford repairs. Even their home appliances, which are valuable to them, are completely destroyed. And so people are either living in the rubble or increasing homelessness and living in the street. We call on all their governments of their home countries to really take decisive action to fund this evacuation because it saves lives.
Now in Lebanon, no money, no work. About this crisis, everyone knows, not only us. So we cannot work without paying. That's why we are here since Monday, almost 2 weeks. We just need help to go back home, only that.
Masks become mandatory in all public transport in Denmark. All passengers over the age of 12 who don't wear them will now have to leave the metro, bus or taxi immediately.
A lot of people in Denmark have this thing where if you can't see someone's face, it makes them untrustworthy. So Denmark is a quite trust-based society, so if people feel that there's something that prevents you from feeling trust towards someone, they don't want to engage in that. So I'm guessing that's one reason why masks have always been kind of considered strange by Danish standards.
You have to get used to it.
Yes,
it's warm and yeah, it's difficult to relax wearing it, I think. Yes. But it feels safe at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, I'm positive about it.
If we can protect some of our vulnerables in this society, then it's okay, I think. It doesn't do any difference for me. I'm just biking normally, so it's fine.
Squinting in concentration, Vietnamese artist Nguyen Thi Hanh drops a bright red chili into a bowl of po barely bigger than a coin, the finishing touch to a miniature model that's eaten up days of our time. The 28-year-old architecture graduate Nguyen began crafting food miniatures a year ago, spotting a chance to capitalize on the world's growing love of Vietnamese cuisine. Each Vietnamese dish has its specific beauty, she says, using tweezers to softly lay escalon beside a banh mi sandwich. Okay, so let's get back into the discussion on our mental well-being. And I'll kick off with you, Miriam, as we head into our last few minutes of the program. We are looking forward to a time of, well, we can't say there will be no pandemic. I'm sure now we have to just get used to living with the virus. So what does this mean in terms of carrying on our best practice in mental health terms going forwards?
It's quite a huge, pregnant subject. But I think moving forward, one is that as Kenyans, we need to embrace mental health and seek services, because when you seek services, it actually boosts who you are. It helps you remain focused, remain in control of your own anxieties, because you know, people are suffering from anxieties leading to loss of sleep and everything, and you just become angry. The issue is that you also get right information. So I think there's so much of a package of benefits that come with mental health and psychosocial support if you seek that. And what that translates for us is that both at workplace and in the home, we have to be conscious that we need that, both for our family members and the team members that we work with. And so for me, from like a workplace point of view, I know Mr. Nyango will talk more, but I think just looking at how do we entrench mental health and psychosocial support for our workers. I know like currently there's so much of working from home and all that, but have you, for example, checked on your colleagues in the last 2-3 days? Are they well? So the check-in system is very important, so that within the workplace business process or continuity process, you have to have some guidance that would actually remind you that, hey, I need to check in my team members. We need to catch up with the same team members. We need to be able to have a debrief. And so even for employers, I'm looking at a time, and this is the time where you ensure that there's resource invested so that each and every worker can access mental health. They could access mental health on site, but I know that it makes sense if you can actually get an external person that they can call in independently, especially for the men. I think we need to also be conscious that while women, we talk, and that is our therapy. But I think for men, you want a lot to be assured of your confidentiality. So the external service, if you're able to have that provided for, is very important in the workplace. And I know that COVID has just brought in that as a need. And at a family level, right as an individual, you need to be conscious of your mental health. Because the things you're doing could actually be projections. And you actually also get that institutionalized and entrenched, that everybody is conscious that when I feel this, I need to get support. When I feel, you cannot just feel that you don't want to talk to people. It's abnormal. You cannot just sit in your bedroom for day 1, day 2, day 3. You're not showering, you're not eating and all that. So that consciousness that we need to remind our friends, we need to remind ourselves in the workplace, we need to remind everyone around us that you can actually seek support is very important.
Okay.
And for me, that then gets us to even just ensuring that you understand those small tips you can actually do to keep yourself healthy and ensure that you're also passing those tips around mental health and psychosocial wellness to your peers, your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miriam. Now, to you, Hilda, the virus we have to accept is here with us to stay. Do you think there will come a time when we can safely say, I'm seeing someone, obviously not about dating, but that you're seeing as, a therapist?
Well, it would be nice if people are dating. That's not such a bad thing either. But I keep emphasizing, and I cannot emphasize enough, the importance of demystifying mental health wellness. Talk to somebody, and as Miriam has rightfully put so, begin by just understanding yourself. We all know when we are not doing well and when we are beginning to go down the rabbit hole, and it's important at that point to talk to the person who you feel confident and comfortable talking about whatever it is that you're struggling with. It's important for us to reach out, but also for us to reach out to our friends, our loved ones, our family members, our colleagues, our neighbors, and make sure just checking in on somebody to see that they are well and to make them know that you're present and you're there for them is something that is very important. With regards to employment, I think many organizations provide healthcare services, and part of this needs to be entrenched within the healthcare services that we have counselors that are available. They may not necessarily be employed within the organization, but those services are available in terms of contracting for organizations to be able to provide that support for their employees.
Okay.
Reach out to organizations, reach out to us as IMLU, and at this point, if you allow me, I would like to encourage people to download a mobile application called Reporty, where they can anonymously report cases of police excesses or police violence. You can take videos, send us a panic alert. We'll be able to reach out to you, reach out to us on our social media platforms and on our website, and we'll be able to provide the support that is required. But my hope and my plea to the general public is to reach out, speak out, and begin normalizing, accessing mental health support and mental health services.
Thank you, Hilda. And to you, Mr. Gikundi, briefly, before we get to even counseling, because that should be the last option, what are the tips in terms of maintaining our mental health, well-being as individuals? What are your tips?
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. In terms of maintaining our mental health, it's simple things, small things that matter. We need to think about our mental health as part of health, that we can never be healthy without addressing our mental health, our own ways of thinking, feeling, and behavior. And until we come to that point, we will never be able to be healthy. We normalize the fact that it's okay not to be okay. We don't stigmatize it. We don't mystify the fact that mental health is just a normal part of health, and that steps taken by agencies like even insurance companies, it doesn't make sense to say that you have covered somebody's health, but you have not covered their mental health.
Okay.
Somebody has used their NHIF card to go and access mental health. So are they accessing health?
Mr. Gikundi, I'll have to stop you there so that I can give the final word to Mr. Onyango, the future of work, the workplace, and our well-being in a minute or so.
Thank you very much. Just before I go there, I'd like to say that professional counseling is really, really quite important, and it must be mainstreamed. There's various organizations. One of them is the Professional Criminologists Association of Kenya, the organization of this, and all these people need to come together to give a push so that counseling is actually put in an act. It's not so easy. Even for us HR professionals, it was a long journey for HR to be recognized and seen as a real professional, despite even having a schemes of service or a career progression guidelines. But for HR practitioners and occupational wellness, so to speak, I would like to say that the huge drift is from our perspective of looking at things. And we must now start looking at the human, not just as a resource, but as a human being, first of all. And that will help in our psychology and our preparedness on how we treat each other, how I look at you as an employee and how you look at me as an employer. Remember the huge drift between looking at the bottom line to looking at the top line, which is the holistic person, between looking at the drift of just looking at, you know, the financials and the resources, to looking at how does it benefit the society, the environment. And
so the people, not just the numbers.
It is much more about the people and the emotions of these people. So that will help stabilize us as a society.
Mr. Unyango, I want to thank you so much. He's the chair of the Institute of Human Resource Management, who joined me this morning, alongside Miriam Bembe, who's the head of health at the Kenya Red Cross Society. We've also been speaking to Hilda Nyatete, program officer in charge of psychological rehabilitation at the Independent Medical Legal Unit. And we also have been having Elias Gikundi, who's the chair of the Kenya Counseling and Psychologists Association. So I want to thank my panel very much indeed. And you can follow up with questions to them. Or indeed, if you need to be directed to some kind of help or support, we'll be happy to do that. But just before we close, some comments from you on our hashtag #DoYouNormal. This is Gatua Henry. You say, combat stress is real, guys. When one is affected, she can't even recognize it. You just find yourself doing weird things. One can't even have an idea of seeking medical attention, since it's not a painful disease if one doesn't have a close friend. Asante sana, that's an emphasis on speaking out. Another comment here from Mogambi, spot on. No one will believe a man is undergoing mental health issue. He'll be judged harshly, okay? And we're saying, guys, we need to talk. Thank you so much, Mogambi. And this one is Lois Snow. You're saying, in the post-COVID-19, there will be a serious need for counseling or psychological services needs, and the systems need to be put in place now, such as implementing the Psychologists Act of 2014. Okay, that comment has come in again. I hope Serikali is listening. And again from Lois, the National Police Service should make it a mandatory and a lifestyle of serving a police officer to periodically go for debriefing and have it documented. Okay, Mr. Onyango is taking notes, so he'll pass on that comment. And yeah, that's it so much for your comments. We'll be back tomorrow. And tomorrow we are looking at sports, as the authorities prepare to roll out protocols for the resumption of the sector. London Marathon preparation is also underway. We also have a surprise for the sports lovers that's focused on sports tomorrow at 7 a.m. Before then, as always, you're invited to a workout session from the comfort of your home under the guidance of our professional trainers starting at 6:30 a.m. On behalf of the team here at NTV, thank you so much. Stay well and have a blessed day.